Parshas T, we tried to put. I'm sorry. In Parshas T, we tried to make a connection with Matan Torah to the Mishkan. In other words, because it should be, there will be a Beis Hamikdash in Eretz Yisrael. The question in Midbar, maybe we didn't need one. And then we said it was mischadish that we did need, that we need because of the Egel, we needed a Mishkan, and even in the Midbar, even though we have the Anania covered, even though we have all these things, we still need it. Okay. And I want to continue with that angle that how with Aharon now. Now we're going into the Kahuna, and if we look at it, you'll see that it has nothing to do with the first psukim with the Kahuna at all. It says, what should be? Bnei Yisrael should bring you Shem Zayzoch, Kosel Amor, to oil moed, like Pareches, wherever it will be. I shall Eidus Yachor, say, Aaron Ubonav Merva Bekel Fnei Hashem Kezom Dois Manis Bnei Yisrael. Right? Talks about we're giving this to Aaron Ubonav. We'll speak what it is in a minute, but we're giving it. But he's not a Kohen yet. He's nothing to do with Kohen. Now the next pasuk, that means in the first psukim he's not a Kohen yet. Afal Pikein, for the Menorah he's the man. So the Menorah, what it's giving to the world is not necessarily just kedusha. That's Torah that it's giving to the world. And that exists all the time. Whether Beis Hamikdash, no Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't make a difference. And there are representatives to it. And Aru Bonav are the ones to do it. That's Aharon HaKohen. Therefore, he gets the job. Okay. What's the point of Seven Zayis Kosses Lamor? You know, we have apple juice, we have orange juice. Orange juice, you take an orange, you can give it a good kvetch, you can get orange juice. Apple juice, you can kvetch all day long, you're not going to get anything. How they make it, I don't know. It's obviously, it's still with the press and the whole thing. An olive is also the same thing like an apple. And yet, the whole idea of the olive is the oil of the olive. You know, that's what it's made for, and that's the shvacha oretz and stuff like that, because that's our fat that we have what to cook in. And there's other things too, but I mean, but that basically is for food at least, anyway. That it's the fat of cooking. Okay. Now to get it out, however they have to squeeze it. After a while, this olive oil gets mixed up with the shmorim, with the olive itself that gets grinded down, and you got pieces. So how do you get an olive oil? You strain it, and you get the oil, and you leave in the thing. Now, taste, I can't answer you which one tastes better. I would assume that with the shmorim it tastes better because that you get the olive at least in there, you know. But I can't tell you that because I don't know. About when you want for the lighting, over here, the only you want is the first drop. You're taking about one drop of an olive each time. You know how many olives it's going to take to make how many lugim it's going to take there? I mean, it's unimaginable, really, so what you're going to do. But there's a real reason for this. It's not just the point that the Bench made it, you know, just give us a hard time. He made it for us to know when we teach Torah, it's more important that we do not put any sfeikis in anybody's minds. And therefore, it's he would always explain it like this, even in talking about Parshas Shiur. But a Parshas Shiur is not negayed too much because my nafkimine, some have a lot of tzorchiyuns. When it comes to emunah, mitachen, those things, they got to be clear with what we're talking about. So I say something, and I want to ask a kasha on it to become a chadish my chiddush. And the guys don't hear the kasha. And I keep asking it over again, and I'll explain it Nachamol and this way, and now you hear the kasha finally. The guy say, yeah, finally we hear the kasha. Okay, we hear the kasha. Now he's going to give the teretz. Oh, so now this and this is the teretz. Falls on deaf ears. That's the teretz for this kasha. This is such a great kasha. That's a lousy teretz. So what I leave in the person, I leave the doubts in the person. And therefore, that's no good. It has to be Shemazai Zoch. There was never anything to take out. It was always pure to when I gave it to you. Now, sometimes I can't explain it. My chesoron, I can't explain it. What can I do? So the thing is the person has to make cheshbenis how to bring it out. Sometimes you can bring it out not answering this particular question, but you're answering a question on the side. And with this teretz, we can also answer this question. When you get that type of way, they don't check on you too much. I don't know why exactly. I would say that they hear, but they don't check on it like if you would give it as that's the teretz for this question. It's not the teretz for this question. The teretz was for that question, but it also can answer this one. It can also answer this one. So even if I'm not completely satisfied, it's good enough for me. And that way you'll have to bring it out. So this is a big lesson in how to teach Torah. And this belongs to Aaron. It's your job to, that you have to learn on the Alam Elov and things like that. So therefore there's measurements in all of this. Okay, then he tells him to go, and I want you to make him, Aaron and his kids, I want to make him into Kohanim. He says, I want you to make begotten for them, l'chaved l'seforis. So Shiva asked again, what do you mean l'chaved l'seforis? All we're making is four begotten. You have a pair of shorts. If you ever see the begotten in the big corner, it's a pair of shorts. A long tunic, right? A hat and a belt. Those are basic clothes. What do you mean cover the sefos? I'm doing because you got to be clear dressed. So you want to do a chiddush to this the point. The Rebbeinu Shem claimed created Adam Arisha naked. There's that. If I use my Evorim for what they're made for, there's no Issa. A guy eats. He doesn't eat properly. Says a Rebbe shouldn't eat in front of his Talmidim sometimes. And that's where, let's say, because he may just shove it down his throat. He may not eat properly, sloppy, this thing, that. You shouldn't do it. But obviously there's no Issa in doing it. We do eat together. What do you call it? Because we understand that even though it's a need, and there's a taiva to the need, of a lamaisa, what do you call it, is a person, we understand the eating because it's a necessity, not because of anything else. We get the other type of arayas and stuff like that, that becomes a problem, right? But it only becomes a problem because I misuse it. If I'd only use it for what the mitzvah is made for, then there's nothing to be ashamed of. What are you ashamed of? That's what it's made for. So the idea is then, a Kohen, when he goes to do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, his Kedusha has got to be so high. He's Adam Arishim Ked Machet. There's no busha. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Everything God gave me, I use for his mitzvahs, for what he wants to use them for. And therefore, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And that's basically it. So therefore, why do I need clothes and ganzen for? Because clothes make the man. It beautifies it, whatever, it covers up chesrenis, whatever the things are that clothes are supposed to do, besides for the elva. And that's what it does. So that's what we have to do. Okay. There may be a difference also here in an Indian of how you're supposed to do something when it's for permanence or it's for Chai Shor like. There is, it says over here how you're going to make the ephod, right? You make an ephod, you bring soft, chelis hagom, tlashoni, sheish mozum, asechayshit, right? The whole thing. It doesn't say to bring stones. Then it says, after it, take the 2 stones, eshtei avnei hashoam, take 2 stones, and write the names of Klal Yisrael. It didn't tell me to take the stones before what to do. It just told me that before it says you'll take wool and this and that, and you'll make an ephod out of it. So if that's the case, you say the same thing else. You take stones and I want you to engrave them. But it doesn't say take the stones. So I would think there could be that the regular clothes of a person's understood somewhere along the line, they got to be replaced. Well, they have to, and this can happen. They won't have to be replaced, fine, that can happen. But the Avnei Shoyam, they don't have to be replaced. They're stone. They can live for eternity. Right? The sign, the this and that, breakage, this, I can't answer you on all those things, but it's not necessarily considered common. Stones are stones are going to last. Those have to be permanent. That's a different avodah already. That's an avodah that we have that has kedusha in it for permanence. It's not just for a period of time. Okay. And the funny part is that the Bein Shalom, I guess in a way, wants to show you the chshivas of the shiftei kah. Not only the shiftei kah, but Bnei Yaakov by themselves. Normally, when we talk about the shvatim, there's no Yosef, there's no Levi. We have Bad Masoyas and things like that. These don't exist. What you have is Efraim and Asher. They're coming in place, right? But over here, I want Dafke, Yosef, and Levi on the stones, and not Efraim and Asher. Because that extra kedusha that you can say he did it because he wanted to show that Yosef, no matter what, has his own merits and doesn't have to come onto his children's merits and do that thing. Levi is still part of Klal Yisrael, even though it's a kedusha. For whatever reason the Bein Shalom wants it done, he wants it done that it should be everything there, but also Kitel Daiso, the way they were born. That means they want after Yehuda done after they got Nasha, before they get down to Yisrachas Vulun and Yosef and Yamin. That means the Shvatim from the Shvachis come in the middle of the regular listing of the Shvatim to show you that they're all choshev. They're all choshev in their order of birth. And whatever that means, like, what's the order of birth? Why am I the 4th, you're the 5th, you're the 6th, whatever it is. But whatever that Maila is that I'm bringing into Klal Yisrael, that's coming in with me. You told Daisom, now it exists. Okay. That tells you want to make a Chosh Mishpat. Chosh Mishpat is going to be square, span, I guess, I don't know how tall the guy was in the span, but it's a span. And they're going to make the stones. You take a look at the pictures of the stones and somehow the way they portray it to be, they are very sizable stones to write a name on. In other words, first of all, it's 3 stones on a line. So they're going to be not a square, rectangle. They're going to be rectangle stone. And engraved one name on each stone, and the colors are differently beautiful colors. You'll call them semi-precious stones as opposed to precious stones. I don't know the cheshbonish of the Rebbeinu Shalom. He made the stones and they're precious. And I think the size makes the big difference. In other words, you're not yetzer with a little stone. You have to have a big whopper stone. and it'd be probably about at least 2 inches of stone in the thing there, which is pretty big. So I don't know if it's less valuable, the whatever the odds are compared to a diamond or something. Because according to jewelers, it's just only 3 that they consider gems: the diamond, the ruby, and the green one. Emerald and the emerald. Those are considered the valuable stones. And the semi-valuable is already the next one: sapphire, these type of things. But as I say, to make the same that size, maybe it's not just shaykh such a thing. Yeah, and he has to always, Aaron has to always wear this because it's a zikon of Hashem. And whatever, I don't know what exactly is that the Bensham should hear. Whatever is these things, I don't know what they mean. Okay, and that's the begotten of him. Now I was asked once that. That in the begotten that we said before, you only mention 3. They don't mention Mechnasayim. So maybe the Mechnasayim tak are only made for what do you call it? To hide the Elva, whatever it is. Right? I said, where do we learn out that the fact that begodim are mechaper, that the big dikun are mechaper for averes, and the fact that it says that you should make nichten seibad l'chasen nine to make the pants. If I need it, I can't be mechaper for anything, right? So therefore, obviously, it's what we said before, right? And we definitely learn it out from the pants because that's where the elva is concealed. Now, for Pikain, that's what we learn out. Then he goes into Ubikobonis, which was Negeya to but they have to make the Maluyim. Now the Maluyim, Aaron, and Moshe was the Kohen Gadol at that time. Now it's for the first 7 days till Aaron takes over, Moshe the Gadol, and that's the next set of Shmini, which after Kisisa, you'll have Shmini. Vayikra Shmini, I'm sorry. But that will be the description of the Karbanis when they actually had to be matched of them. But the Maisa, what the purpose of the Karban, what kind of Karban, that it describes over here, that you have to have it. And we learn out strange halachas here, also which is not necessarily negated to here. For instance, it should say a pasuk that should be for Aharon Ubanov, right? That comes after him. So we learn from them a halacha when you're dealing with halachas of Yerusha and stuff like that, and especially in Kedusha Dikas, in halachas, it goes to the son before anybody else. And the reason for it is I guess, because the dedications is a way of Yerusha in a way too. But he has to be roy lekach. If he's not roy lekach, it doesn't go. I guess Bezdin. That's why they appoint them. not a Yerush automatic. Okay. And the basic avodah that they're going to have is the Talmud. I'm Shachas, I'm Bayim. And those are the area of the fire. I'm not going now for it, but in the all of the Musafim, all of them are oilos. And the big zach from an oila is to show that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, how does that show? By my giving a korban that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I believe it's because nobody enjoys it. He goes, it's nisraf hakol. There's no question. Whatever was worth was wasted. You're not using it for anything, and you can't eat it. On the other hand, let's say a chatas. What do? We mark the Seforim, and whatever we mark over there, and the rest is eaten by the Kohanim. Shlomim, the Yisraelim also eat. So in other words, the fact that we bring a korban doesn't put any more isurim on us not to eat something. It's a chaylev we don't eat, right? Things that we couldn't eat anyway. So therefore, that goes on, the dam and the chaylev. But the normal things we eat. So therefore, it's not a waste at all. Now it's just a question of who eats it. That's the only thing. But as far as the actual thing, it's not lost. Over here, nobody eats it. Right now. So therefore, how does that show anything? So I always find that China is like this. When we hopefully all of whom didn't say, it's been a Kodesh Baruch Hu, the bench and git, whatever it is there. And by saying this all the time, obviously that's what they believe, hopefully, right? But they can't demonstrate. They can't in any way show that it's true. On the other hand, when you bring an oila, you can show with a maaseh what you're doing. I took a korban, which I come out with this from when we have a rice or whatever it is, that a person has to bring a korban of which a sum of money it's worth that he would feel the loss. In other words, $5, a lot of people will feel the loss. 100, okay, there's a lot of guys that will feel the loss. Others will say even 100, not 1,000 though, no question about it, they'll feel the loss. A gevir won't feel the loss of 1,000 either. 10,000, even he fully, even though he's a billionaire. But the idea is $10,000 is lost, thrown away. It's something that you can't take. It's a number you work with, you live on. So you can't just throw it away. Whatever it is that it takes for a person to feel a loss, that's the size korban he has to bring. And he brings his korban, and he has to feel, I feel no loss by this because I'm not the giver. God's the giver. So therefore, if God wants me to have it back, in other words, he'll make sure that I get the money back. And if he doesn't want me to have it back, he won't give me the money back. But everything is from him. In other words, and that's why I'm doing an action to show that that's my belief. What happens when they shech this $10,000 cow, the guy feels, and all of a sudden he feels, ooh, what a waste. He flunked the test. He has to go and bring another korban if that's what he wants to do. That declaration is no good. Okay, but that's why we had to make Kaddish the Mizbeach before, because if we have to bring the korban that's going to be Mekadosh the Mizbeach, that kind of korban would not have done it. But the Maaseh, we Grshon wants us to keep trying to reach that madrega, so therefore he will accept it. So now when a guy goes out, it's like saying Krishma twice a day. I declare my allegiance to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And here also I'm declaring with the thing, I'm declaring in the morning when I get up that in other words, the Rebbeinu Shalom is the giver, I'm the taker, and therefore the Rebbeinu Shalom is. I have a great day, no problem. Right? Well, I'm not a miserable day. The Panosa came in, this make a thing. How does he feel by the afternoon? Does he also say God is the giver? Or he said, I didn't work too hard, or I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. So, I mean, I'm the giver, I'm the taker, whatever it is. So we have to have a second korban that in the morning when you start and when you come home, to say, it was a good day, a bad day, doesn't make a difference. I'm making the same declaration that I made this morning. God is the giver. And that is the point that we're Masak. And the same thing goes on all the different aylas. We'll talk about that, I guess, in Bar Midbar. But the Seforim. Okay. Now all of a sudden, list pops up another keli that has to be in the Mishkan. Should have been mentioned before, it wasn't. I'm not going into the reason. I think the Shiva has reasons for that, but Maisa brings in the Mizbeach HaKteres that it has to be done. So the Rosh Yeshiva learned pshat the keach of a Rebbe. The keach of a Rebbe has to be that the Talmud can smell. What's the mile of smell? Keteris over any other one. It's a thing. It's a sense that comes in from afar and by kocha and by force. You can't keep it out. And therefore, you say, oh, why wouldn't I can't keep it out? Hold my nose. Try holding your nose for more than half a minute, and you'll see why it doesn't work. Right? So, in other words, there's an odor comes in, a nice smell or a rotten odor, the same thing. They come in from afar. The influence of a Rebbe has to be from afar and against his own desires. Now, with the Talmud, like Yosef and Yaakov, when he knew that they saw Duknei Soloviv, so he was able to go away from Potiphar's wife. That was even though he was already planning on whatever he was planning on. How was he able to do that? Because he was able to be Kevish Yisrael. The thing, it entered him. It went in, and it was not something he thought about. When about Kocha, he immediately came in front of him, his father's thing. You can't do such a thing. You can't do it. And that's what happened. You couldn't do it. So that's the keich of the Rebbe. It has to be. That's why he's different than all the other keiches that have to be, is because to have this influence from far, and even Baal Kocha, where the guy doesn't want to accept it. About being that, that's the thing. Okay. Now, this particular, when do you light the mizbeach? When you mark down the mizbeach? Twice a day. When you clean out the menorah, and when you light the menorah, which goes with the two types of way a person becomes a Rebbe. One is he's maneah him from Ra, right? You don't let him do bad. That's I clean out the cups from the oil. What do you mean clean them out? In Parshas Ba'aleischa, it says Ba'aleischa's haneres. It means two things. One, I shall have a selim eleho. The Kohen has to light the menorah until the fire is holding on by itself. What does that mean? There's a mitzvah a lot of people may not be aware of. But I think they teach enough places that when the husband leaves for shul Friday, he should make sure that he already lit the neighbors, so when the wife comes to light it, it'll be easier to light. Okay? That's what he's mechuyev to do. So, okay. So the job is that to make sure that it catches right away. Sometimes you see by Hanukkah licht, more than probably other places because you go so fast with the different ones. You'll see you go a little too fast and the light went on one of them. Right? So you got to go back. I'm saying, but if you take your time and you catch the fire, that's the job of the Rebbe to the Talmud until the Talmud is able to learn by himself and grasp everything by himself. That's his chiyuv. Not just they also put a step in front of the menorah in order for a kahn to light. Now the question becomes, how short is the menorah? How small is the menorah? The menorah is, let's say, at the maximum 6 feet. Right? Even a short kahn, giving him a candle, that's why it's going to be able to light the so what is the purpose of this? But if we have to clean out the menorah, because my job is, how do you make sure that the shalhevis is olam me'aleh? By making sure nothing's standing in the way. I'm going to go in, I'm going to clean out the basin, the cup, make sure there's nothing that's ma'akiv, the lighting. So then already I have to be able to bend over and to see what's inside. And that already needs a step. Therefore, even though it's a short thing, but my body will be only straight the other way. This way it has to be bent over, where I can look into the cup. So therefore, we need this step for everybody. Now, I want to tell you a story. On the normal year, not this year because we're dealing with other bays, but on a year where there's only another Aleph, this particular Seder is the round Purim. It's the week before Purim. And that's Parshas T. And according to that, we come out always about the Rosh Hashivas. That's how, because that was his Yeltzeit, his Tainus Esther, and therefore it's a major thing in the family. Tell you an incident that actually happened by the Levaya. And again, a way to show the Keches HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever it is you want to say. We left Purim night on the plane. We went to Montreal, where they were made Maspid Rosh Hashiva on the tarmac. That was the plane. It was in El Al. And then it flew direct to Eretz Yisrael. 4 hours out. It was close to England, close to North Africa. They were called back, and we had to go back all the way back to the United States, back to New York. That added on at least another 8 hours, obviously, to the flight. That time was about 12 hours. It took about 21, 22 hours to the flight, going to Israel. Okay. What was Pshat? They said that there was a war that time in Algeria, I think it was, or Libya. And because of that, they didn't have any radar, so they had to go back for the radar to fix. And the question was what to do. Should we go right there? The Rosh Hashiva didn't leave any tzaveh. Where to be buried? So are we doing the right thing, the wrong thing? And because of that, I was the only oval that was actually going. So it became a decision mine. They were muscle cut from the rest of them, not involved. So now it became what I chose, and I chose that if we have to change planes, we will stay in America, and if we don't have to change planes, we'll go back to Eretz Yisrael. But to try to figure out why is this happening. Okay. The day before, or that day on Tanis Esther itself, the Levi in the morning, I kept getting phone calls from Eretz Yisrael, different ones. The Askonim, even the Rabbonim of Yerushalayim wanted the Levi at night. As soon as we get there, we should make the Levi right away. What do you call it? The Bnei Barak of Shach specifically called they should not do anything at night because it's Takonos Lefashis. And we saw that Lemaisa by what's his name, Levi, where two people were actually killed by the Levi. So the question is, who you listen to, and the Rosh Yeshiva is a peaceful man. A machlekes like this should come out about where he should be buried. It can't be. Okay. So this is what I believe happened. If we would have gone straight, like the normal airline would have been, we would have gone in the early evening in the night, but it would be night already. But it would be early evening, about 7 o'clock or something like that. You go right to the Levaya. You'll be able to, finish by 10, but it's black, it'll be dark, and people can get hurt. Okay? So we came in after 12. Don't ask me how it worked out with the hours, but with the 7 hours. Anyway, came in after midnight. And therefore, at that time already, you can't make a Levi that night. Everyone went to sleep already and everything. Okay. And I didn't understand too much one way or the other at that time. When I was sitting Shiva, then before going back to America, so I was there a few hours. That I had this. I sat in the hotel, and people came to Menachem Oval, and they came the Askonim of Yerushalayim and said, "Oh, we showed Kat Kalak how much power the former have." Okay, and then it became what we talked about, the obvious why they didn't want it at night. I mean, they wanted it only at night, not in the morning, because Kalak had a Purim play. It's a big zach that he has. And he has a big parade, and if you have a Levi at the same time, you're going to get in his way. It'll be annoying. And how much could it be annoying? I mean, it doesn't make sense, so we'd rather have it that we don't annoy him. So let's get the Havaya open in the morning. I mean, at night. And the kasha was, are they right or wrong in their cheshbenis? And they were right. So Shiva was there only one time, in 1964. This is 86. That's 22 years later. Right? 22 years later. Even a kid who saw him and was impressed by him, he's got to have been, let's say, bar mitzvah at that time. So he's 22 years plus 13, it's at least 35. So the only people that know about him are the 35s and above. So you'll have a Levi of 50,000 people. Levi 50,000 people, unfortunately, is not going to stop closing the city. It just becomes a pain in the neck that we have to go around you instead of through you. And he'll get very upset about that. But in reality, the Levi was 350,000 people. And therefore the city was closed. There was no way that he could have a parade, period. And then already that shows power, whatever it is, whatever you call kavratera, whatever you want to call it. So the Rebbeinu Shalom answered the problem. And he answered it with this way, that was, I'm making shalom, I'm making the reason the thing there, and it's going to be something that's impossible for you to decide, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to show that it works like that. question became, why was their cheshbon wrong? The chayre they gave, it was on they based it on facts. You're not going to make a big levaya for someone that's not Tamar Yisrael, or he's not there. So what do you have? Everybody's Seforim? So if we'll take a look at the Haftarah, when we just spoke about the Inyan, of that you have them split. It says over here, the mafte comes in, one pasuk I would think later than I would have thought to say it, put it. In other words, the mafte also tries to get a subject itself. So what would I try to get? I would get the time of the Haktorah of the Keteris. So it should have started the Hiktor of Avarna going to Samba Baker Baker, Beitivas and Neris Ketkano, when he cleans out the Neris. And the Halois is Neris Ben Albayim. But where does it really start? It starts Mafsik after the morning to the night. It starts with Halois Neris Ben Albayim. That's what Mafsik starts. So L'chayre, you're missing the big point. The Techacha you're missing. Whatever you have, that's supposed to be a big thing. So this, I wanted to say, could be that the person, by putting out the Reiv Teire, takes care of that point too. In other words, when you're dealing with a small group, so then in order to have a big influence on them, you have to be, on one hand, you have to be Sumera, and you have to say Toiv. In other words, so you have a Tivas Aneres, and also Vadlok is the Neres. But if the only thing that if you're doing is so much Torah that you can throw out there, then with just the Torah alone, people became your Talmidim. And that makes it, therefore, only you have to put down only Ba'alois Aneres. It's the only time you put it down there. The other part is not necessary. What I said was negaya to him specifically. Other people, I said, I don't know how much it was negaya to, but it was negaya specifically. This is the union of the, the Haktorah and the Lev. And again, that's that special keach. Let's go back a little, see if there's anything more to say on. Why would you think that the Rebbeinu Shalom would have picked Aaron Abanov to be Kahanim? If you look for Chatoyim, so Aaron is blamed for the eagle. When the night he metalogizes to Moshe, and in Parshas I think Ya'akov, the Moshe Rabbeinu says after Aaron, maybe that was in Devarim itself. Says when God got angry at Aaron too, and therefore he lost 2 kids. That was in Mishpal. Rashi says he has 4 kids. 2 I saved, 2 I wasn't able to. So, so Aaron is not, the guy we should have there, l'chayra, right? Abel, the Meshach turns down anybody else but Aaron. And not only everybody else, but even in the case by Moshe Rabbeinu, they didn't take Aaron away. Why? What is this over there by Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said, Yishlach biyad tishlach, so the Rebbeinu Shalom said, your brother Aaron Halevi is going to come to see you. And he says, why did he say Aaron Halevi? Because originally he was supposed to be the Levi, you were supposed to be the Kohen. But now that you asked, you did this point, now the point is he's going to be the Levi, you're going to be the Levi, and he's going to be the Kohen. I mean, what does that mean? What did he do, Moshe Rabbeinu? And there you see this Takamachleikus Tanoim. Was there any, because it says, V'yicharav Hashem Moshe, And wherever there's a charonaf, there has to be a maisa of anger. So, like, what was the anger here? Not the Benjamin didn't do anything to him. And then the other one, and that's the machlekes, with this, of course, the lost the kahuna or he didn't. So I said, this is what pshat is. Moshe Rabbeinu was worried very much for Aaron's covet. He didn't want to insult Aaron. He didn't want Aaron to feel bad. So therefore, he kept returning down the job of B'Sheich Hashem, because Shlach b'yad tishlach. You got a guy that does this already. I don't need me for this. For that gufa is Rabbi Yishim's tain on it. What is the keach of a kohen? The keach of a kohen is supposed to be that he is a Oyev Shalom v'Reidev Shalom. That's his job. And the Gemara describes him as, I would say, as an extremely naive person. What do you mean, extremely naive person? He sees the machlekes of two people. Now, it doesn't say how hard the machlekes it is. It sees the machlekes of two people. He goes over to one of them and he says to him, hey, what happened there, whatever it is, and then he tells you the thing. I learned it a little different than the way it's brought down, just only because to understand it. But I guess I have to understand that too. But let's say, for instance, the way it's brought down. Aaron would go over to one of the guys and says, your friend wants to apologize to you, right? And whatever he gets him, he's willing to accept the apology, right? He then goes over to the second guy and he says to him, your friend wants to apologize to you. If you just meet him in this place, it'll be over. Okay? So they both come to the place and each one is waiting for the other one to start the apology, right? You wanted to talk to me, right? Me? I thought you wanted to talk to me, right? Then we have a big fight. So in other words, this eight of the Gemara seems to be a little off. I haven't got it. I'm sure we got to figure out the right pshat that it happens, but so far I haven't got it. But listen to my case. Alan sees a person that's ejected, and he knows that the person had a fight with his friend. And he goes over to him and say, what's going on? He said, I just had a bad fight with my friend. With your friend? What happened? And he tells him his story. And he said, and you did nothing? Oh, I did this and this and this and this. And you're happy that you did those things? Of course, I feel very bad about it. Okay. You want to apologize? Yeah, okay, I'll apologize because I want to be my friend back. Okay, goes over to the second guy. So he already has the first guy agreeing to apologize. Goes over to the second guy and he says to the second guy, I heard you had a fight and this happened. And the guy's, very upset at you. The thing he said, I know that, but do you know what I did to him? I did this and this and this to him. I said, are you sorry about that? I said, of course I'm sorry about that. I didn't want to do anything bad to my friend. Okay, so you want to apologize about that? Now both people want to apologize. And I said, they meet them at this corner. They're both going to run into each other's hands and ask for forgiveness, right? So therefore we have shalom. But to do that, how do we react when someone comes over to us and says to us, do me a favor, can you talk to my friend? We had a fight that I want to really be over, forget about it and stuff like that. Can you ask him to forgive me? So the natural tendency is, at least in my mind, is to ask, what did you do to him? Well, I stole his business. I took his kid off the derech. I made his wife divorce him. And you want me to go and ask that she should be murchia for that? What are you kidding? So he's not naive enough. He's going to say, I can't do it. And that's what he said, Moshe Rabbeinu. You want me to say to go and be the Mashiach Hashem as long as I was around? I can't do it. Who's the Mashliach till now? I'm a little bit insulted and stuff like that. Once I have those thoughts, I can't ask a person to be Michael on extreme cases. Aaron, though, on the other hand, he's very naive. You want to make shalom? I'll make shalom for you. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to ask for this, and I don't care what he tells me. I'll ask him again, whatever it is there. So therefore, Aaron is the only one that can be between Moshe and Aaron. You lost it, Moshe, because you're not royal with Kach. Not because it's a neinish. You're just not royal with Kach. That's why the first guy doesn't count it as a neinish. The other one counts as a neinish because you look what you lost. Yeah, but the truth is, it's not a neinish. It's not something I did bad. This kupta neinish. It's something that I didn't understand what the Rebbe wanted. But who I did, nobody else in Klal Yisrael reached that madriga. Only Aaron reached it. And therefore you have to be from Talmidim Shel Aaron, that's Reidiv Shalom, that's the whole tachlis that they have and want from life is peace. And even though it's something that you think is impossible, he will go out and make sure it happens. And that's the Kohen. Therefore, Moshe, when he picked Aaron to be the Kohen, even though Aaron l'chayr just did a chet or whatever he did, right? But Lamai says Aaron's got to be the Kohen. Without Aaron being the Kohen, it's not going to work. And therefore, Aaron is the one, the Kohen. That's what that extra kedusha is that the Kehanim have. And they should be ready kedusha, kedushas shel Aaron vitzivonu. What do you call the Baruch Hashem Yisrael? Now, it's not just the kedusha; it's the kedusha of Aaron that we have. Kedusha Yisrael we all have, but the kedusha of Aaron, that extra oyev shalom, and things that we need that people should learn from us and stuff like that. That's only him. So I think that's basically the reason why the Bensham picked Aaron more above. But for the Torah part, that's a different story already. There's who are the biggest Melamdim of Klal Yisrael? Shimon and Levi. Shimon is the Melamdim of Nikis, right? It's Seforim and everybody else. The Klei Kodesh, as we call them. And Levi is Tumecha V'Yerecha Ish Chasidecha. You're the ones that can do it. And the Beisham gives them the Torah, and yet it says on them, Ororapam. Right? There's a Yaakov Avinu cursed their anger. So why are you making angry people the Kehanim? I mean, the Balaam of Klal Yisrael. I think it's because they care. The reason they get angry is not that they get angry because they're angry people. They get angry because they care. And if they care, they're going to put it down, they're going to make it into, they make sure that you follow. That's the point. So to see for a point of fact that this, really, and this is what I don't know if you'll hear what I say. So, who are the primary rebbeim you know about? Most of them are Hasidim, right? Why? Because they have that bread. I want my kid to have a bread. You know what I'm saying? Later on, we don't take them so much. We want a lamdan. We want something that they did. But in the beginning, in the primary, I want the kid to get established with the cares about something. The Rebbe cares. And that's what the Rebbe is really doing in the thing. So he wants that he picked out these people who have anger, who have anger. But if they're geared to the right thing, it bothers them enough to make sure that they fix it. You're not going to let it lie that it's a big deal. Who cares and something like that. And I think that comes from the way that we're taught originally. In other words, Yisachar is the Shevet of Torah. But it's not really Shevet Torah. It's really more for halacha, for dayonis and stuff like that. Why is it for that? Because they're more knowledgeable. Maybe they have better kep, whatever they are. They're big people. They don't have the brand though. So how does a father teach them? By the way, Avas Hashem is also a chelik of Torah. Yiras Hashem is also a chelik of Torah. How does Levi teach? Levi teaches you got to be an Eved Hashem, you got to be an Eved Hashem, you got to be Eved Hashem. By the way, Levi Torah is also being an Eved Hashem. So which is the part that sticks out? One by the Levi sticks out, the Eved Hashem sticks out, but the other one's being the Lamed sticks out. And that's the problem, when you're trying to impress something on kids, it's not enough to just give them the Seforim and the things like that, because they won't adjust to it too quickly. And they need something that's going to have something that they want to do because they want to do it. It's geschmack, it's this. And that's what the Hasidim, right, have that keach in the young, they have that brand. Okay. I would save it even, it's a shvach, I think, of our yeshiva, but of a comment that I heard once from one of the Matastofas, Gaboyim. They used to come out here for the summer, the Matastofa, and he always davened in the yeshiva. So why did he want to daven in the yeshiva? Because the yeshiva was a Yom Kippur's davening even on a Tuesday. Okay, he wanted to daven with a serious. On the other hand, you ever daven in Shtibel? Everybody's jumping up and down and clapping their hands and anything that. No matter how dull the Valtfil is, that's what's going on. Why is it going on? Because they care. They have a bren, right? We don't have that bren. So if we want to do something, we got to impress them with Yom Kippur. But the other thing is, what happens is joy to be there. Karlbach Shabbos draws 5,000 people. Why is it joy for? Because people want to jump around for a while. Okay, so good, so you need it. But so that doesn't always go necessarily our way. But that's the point to think about how we makarev people, how we're supposed to draw them closer to Klal Yisrael, because that's what it's all about. Is making these guys into former guys, and they be Yidei Hashem. So that's Hashem. Okay, wish you all a good Shabbos. Tzlocha dike Shabbos. Yetzer Hashem, we'll meet again next week. Sei gesund. Shabbos. Shabbos. I'm running out on you. Coming, huh? Not too hot. He's taking me up. You'll take me up. You're the one that has the 1-minute appointment. No. Hi.
Rabbi Efron has an appointment.
Right. Yeah. While we're going out.